Xianxia's gaze turned icy cold when he saw that fist assault him. Even though he didn't want to create trouble for himself, it didn't represent that he was afraid of trouble. Immortal was clearly coming for his life with this attack. 8th level sword intent surged out from within Xianxia and instantly enveloped Immortal. Immortal's punch slowed down upon being enveloped by Xianxia's sword intent, and then shock appeared in his eyes. But right at this moment, Xianxia's sword had stabbed his chest, pierced through his clothes, but didn't stab into Immortal's body, because there was a layer of dark scales on his chest. Human, you can't break through my defenses. Immortal smiled ferociously. Hiss. However, Xianxia suddenly spun Void Flash in the next moment, and then it stabbed into Immortal's body. Immortal was horrified. He hurriedly held onto Xianxia's sword with both hands with the intention of breaking it. But how could he possibly break a Dao artifact? Xianxia twisted Void Flash once more. Ah! Immortal shouted as his figure moved backward repeatedly because his index finger had been chopped off. Ah! Human! You're courting death! Immortal roared furiously but didn't dare to step forward. Xianxia revealed an expression of disdain and said, "Are all the members of the demon race such embarrassments?" Immortal was furious, and he was just about to attack when an old man from the devil race suddenly appeared in front of him. The expressions on the faces of Immortal and the others behind him changed when they saw the old man. After that, all of them, including Immortal, bowed respectfully to the old man and said, "Grand Elder." The old man waved his right hand. Slap! A palm print appeared on Immortal's face while his body was blasted over 100 m away. The expressions on the faces of all the youths from the devil race grew even more respectful. The Grand Elder of the devil race glanced at all the members of the devil race and said, "I want all of you to remember that defeat isn't terrifying because it will only end in death. But there's no one in my devil race who can't accept defeat. Remember this well. All of you can die in the territory of the human race, but don't disgrace my devil race while you're here. We'll remember Grand Elder's teachings well." All of them bowed respectfully to the old man. The old man turned around to glance at Xianxia, and it caused Xianxia's heart to feel cold. Because the old man was a monarch realm expert, and his strength was definitely extremely formidable and probably on par with Xiao Tianji. What a sword emperor! You've attained such accomplishments at such a young age. You aren't any weaker to the sword sect's founding ancestor from all those years ago. The old man's figure flashed and vanished on the spot once he finished speaking. Xianxia heaved a sigh of relief in his heart because the pressure the old man exerted upon him was too strong. He even wondered if the demon emperor would be in time to save him if the old man had attacked. "I'm still too weak." Xianxia spoke with self-ridicule because he was still unable to fight back when facing the top experts of this world. "You're much stronger than before." Right at this moment, Immortal walked over to Xianxia. Xianxia said, "Aren't you the same?" Immortal asked, "What about her?" Xianxia knew he was talking about in Nanjing, and he said, "I advise you to not challenge her because she won't give you another chance to live." Immortal said with a heavy voice, "She's already strong to the point others can only feel despair before her?" Xianxia said, "She really is, for some people." Immortal said, "The situation in the devil race is growing worse. Even if the mortal emperor, Luo Jun, doesn't break open the barrier between the territory of our races, my devil race will do it. But we would have to pay a price. At that time, would you and her help Luo Jun if the human race and devil race enter into war? If the Sword Emperor and Martial God were to join forces with the Mortal Emperor, then not to mention the devil race, even the joint forces of the devil and demon races would probably have no chance against the three of them. No matter what, even if the human race is annihilated, I still won't help Luo Jun. In my eyes, he is my enemy. If your devil race intends to act against those I care about, then your devil race will be my enemy as well," said Xianxia. "I understand." Immortal nodded, and then he turned around and left. Luo Jun noticed Xianxia and Immortal's conversation from afar, and his expression was gloomy. It'll probably become very troublesome if Xianxia joins forces with the devil race. If it were any other person, then perhaps that person wouldn't dare to collude with the devil race. But he was very clearly aware that Yang Yi was a person who was capable of anything. Mortal Emperor. He must be eliminated. Elder Yun spoke abruptly from Luo Jun's side. I agree. The black-clothed figure on Luo Jun's left spoke as well. Should I head over and kill him? The old woman behind Luo Jun spoke abruptly in a gloomy tone. Can you defeat the old drunkard with ease? Elder Yun spoke abruptly. The old woman's face instantly turned gloomy, and she said, Old bastard Yun, what are you trying to say? Are you trying to say that I can't kill a little child who has just stepped foot into the Exalt realm? Elder Yun glanced at Yang Yi and didn't speak further. The old woman was slightly furious. Meanwhile, Luo Jun said, Elder Yun isn't doubting your strength, grammar wrong. But Yang Yi really isn't someone that any Exalt realm expert can defeat with ease right now. Perhaps he might not be a match for grammar wrong. But what if he concentrates on fleeing? The old woman fell silent. I should have eliminated him before he advanced into the Exalt realm, Luo Jun said. Even though he was still monstrous at that time, he could be eliminated with ease. But I never imagined that he would be able to attain the Exalt realm in such a short period of time. That was a blunder of mine. Mortal Emperor, you have the faith energy of a territory now, right? Elder Yun spoke abruptly. Luo Jun nodded and said, Even though it isn't very pure, it doesn't affect my usage of it. I'll be unmatched in the Exalt realm if I'm able to obtain the faith energy of another territory, even if my opponent is Yang Yi or a Nanjing. His voice was filled with confidence. Elder Yun said, Zhao Zhongfei still hasn't conquered the Eastern Territory? It should be done soon. Luo Jun said, There are a few stubborn powers in the Eastern Territory, and I've dispatched forces to deal with them. Once they're dealt with, then the Eastern Territory will belong under the territory of my exalted Han Empire as well. Right, Elder Yun? You mean that you want me to kill Yang Yi myself? Elder Yun nodded and said, If we were to kill Yang Yi, then I would just have to join forces with Shadow. We would be able to kill him with ease even if he has attained 9th level sword intent. However, that's meaningless because the world would only think that you're inferior to the Sword Emperor. That's quite disadvantageous to you. If you killed Yang Yi yourself, then your reputation would definitely arrive at an unprecedented height, and it would even be enough to deter those powers who aren't loyal to our exalted Han Empire. But what if it ends in defeat? Shadow spoke abruptly. Elder Yun's eyes narrowed slightly, but Luo Jun smiled with confidence as he said, If I'm still unable to kill someone who has just stepped foot into the Exalt realm, while I possess the faith energy of 2 territories and the Mortal Emperor sword, then wouldn't I be an absolute failure as a Mortal Emperor? It would be even better if the faith energy of the exalted Han Empire was included. Meanwhile, the old drunkard who stood behind them, 4 of them, spoke abruptly. Shut your mouth, Luo Jun suddenly shouted. I'll beat you to death if you dare to utter nonsense again. The old drunkard pursed his lips. He felt quite indifferent in his heart but didn't dare voice it out. Luo Jun slowly clenched his right fist tightly. The faith energy of the exalted Han Empire. There was only a single way to obtain the faith energy of an empire, and it was to become the emperor of that empire. At this moment, the current emperor of the exalted Han Empire wasn't Luo Jun but his father. Roar! Right at this moment, a dragon roar suddenly resounded from the horizon. When they looked over to its source, they saw over a dozen enormous golden dragons flying over. Their figures were so enormous that they simply seemed as if they were about to blot out the sky, and the dragon pressure they emanated was horrifying even from over 5 kilometers away. I never expected that it would be the divine gold dragon clan this time. There was a solemn expression on Luo Jun's face. It wasn't just Luo Jun. The expressions of many others in the surroundings had changed. After all, they usually only heard of the divine gold dragon clan yet had never seen them. Now that they had, they noticed that the divine gold dragons were numerous times more terrifying than they'd imagined. The divine gold dragons seemed to be intentionally making a show of strength. So they moved about in midair before strands of seemingly material dragon pressure rained down from midair. Some Exalt realm profounders below them instantly slumped to the ground while being affected by the pressure, and some comparatively weaker experts even bled from all 7 apertures and perished on the spot. Regardless of whether it was the devil race or the human race, everyone had extremely unsightly expressions on their faces. These divine gold dragons are really too arrogant. However, for some unknown reason, both Luo Jun and Mo Xian didn't have any intention to act against the golden dragons in the sky. The dragons grew even more arrogant when both the humans and devils didn't act against them. This time, they didn't just emanate their dragon pressure. Some even spewed flames. Some of the Exalt Realm experts in the surroundings didn't even have a chance to avoid the flames before they were burnt into ashes. Suddenly, a strand of flames descended towards Nanjing. She frowned as she looked up at the divine gold dragon in the sky which had shot that strand of flames towards her. In the next moment, Sky Split suddenly left her grasp and transformed into a ray of golden light which shot straight towards that dragon. Sky Split didn't encounter any resistance and pierced through its head. The dragon howled with pain in midair before it crashed straight to the ground, and an enormous bang resounded while the ground trembled violently. Even though her spear had pierced through its head, it hadn't perished and was only heavily injured. "Human! How dare you!" The extraordinarily large dragon who led the ground roared as he gazed at Nanjing, and then endless dragon pressure rained down towards her. Nanjing gestured with her right hand, and then Sky Split flew back into her grasp. She held it in her hand as she raised her head to gaze at the dragon which was circling above her, and she said, "You're disgruntled?" The corners of Yang Ye's mouth twitched. She really is too. Domineering. That extraordinarily huge dragon was just about to attack when his gaze suddenly descended onto Sky Split, and then his huge pupils constricted as he said, "You're the martial god!" And Nanjing withdrew her gaze and paid no further attention to him. Killing intent appeared in his eyes from being disregarded by her, and he was just about to attack when he suddenly turned his head to gaze at Yang Yi. He said, "Human, I sense the aura of my divine gold dragon clan from you." Wait, you've actually killed a divine gold dragon?" "No." Yang Yi denied it decisively. It wasn't that he was afraid of the divine gold dragon, but he really hadn't killed one. After all, that dragon hadn't been killed by him. "I smell the blood essence of my divine gold dragon clan from you. Human, you're refined and absorbed the blood of a divine gold dragon." The extraordinarily huge dragon flicked its body in midair, causing the space around him to surge violently. "That's true." Yang Yi spoke honestly. After all, there was nothing to conceal because he was sure that with the domineering attitude that the gold dragon had, that fellow would look for trouble with him no matter what. The corners of all the spectators' lips twitched when they heard Yang Yi admit it. This fellow has really killed a dragon. And it's even the strongest divine gold dragon clan of the dragon race. Luo Jun's eyelids twitched. Even he wasn't willing to rashly offend the divine gold dragon clan. But Yang Yi hadn't just offended them. He'd even refined and absorbed the blood essence of their clansmen. That was like utterly offending the divine gold dragon clan. However, that was exactly what he wanted, as he felt that it couldn't be any better than to have the divine gold dragon clan targeting Yang Yi. "You're courting death." That gold dragon suddenly sprayed a torrent of flames, and it descended like a meteor towards Yang Yi. However, Yang Yi didn't dodge it at all and just allowed the flames to envelop him. The spectators were stunned. Is Yang Yi committing suicide? In next to no time, Yang Yi walked out from amidst the flames while thin strands of flames covered him. The nether ghost flame. Some discerning people instantly recognized the origins of that flame barrier. Yang Yi gestured with his right hand, and then the flames from that dragon were instantly absorbed by the nether ghost flame, and then a ray of light shot out from the sword chest on his back. It instantly stabbed the golden dragon's stomach, but it wasn't able to stab through and was bounced back instead. What formidable physical defense! The spectators were filled with shock when they witnessed this scene. That was a Tao artifact. "Ant, you think you can harm me?" The gold dragon's voice was like a thunderclap that shook everyone to the point their eardrums hurt. Yang Yi issued a command in his heart, and then that sword returned to his sword chest. After that, the violet cloud lightning and ninth hell cold gale shot out from within him, and then they quickly formed an enormous sword with the nether ghost flame. As Xianxia's violet profound energy surged into it, the enormous sword turned a strange violet color, and when he added 8th-level sword intent into it, the energy contained within the sword simply caused the space around it to instantly collapse. The expressions of all the spectators changed when they witnessed this scene, and even in Nanjing was visibly moved. It was especially so for Luo Jun's group. At this moment, their expressions could be said to be solemn to the extreme, and that included Elder Yun and Shadow. Because even they felt extremely danger coming from the terrifying energy contained within that enormous sword. The eyes of that huge golden dragon constricted violently upon witnessing this scene. He'd attained an extremely terrifying level of physical defense, but it didn't represent that his defense was invincible. There were many extraordinary weapons or heaven-rank techniques which could break through his defenses. For example, the martial god Sky Split or the technique that this human ant was executing. The gold dragon didn't dare underestimate Yang Yi, nor did he dare go head-on against this heaven-rank technique. A thin layer of golden light enveloped his entire body before he dived down towards Yang Yi, while the spectators watched in shock. The divine gold dragon's enormous body made it seem like the sky was falling, and it caused countless profounders to run madly towards the surroundings. A wisp of a cold smile arose on the corners of Yang Ye's mouth as he said, "I haven't killed a gold dragon yet. I wonder how it feels. I'll give it a try today." As soon as he finished speaking, the enormous sword of elements shot into the sky. When compared to the enormous dragon's figure, Yang Ye's huge sword seemed to be quite insignificant. However, the energy contained within it made it so that no one dared to underestimate its might. Because as it tore through space, the space it passed was torn apart, inch by inch. Moreover, the sword intent contained within it didn't just cause space to be unable to repair itself. The rip in space was even growing in size. The spectators watched with astonishment as the enormous dragon and huge sword collided forcefully with each other. And then a short moment of silence appeared before deafening rumbling that sounded like a thunderclap from the 9 heavens resounded. After that, everyone saw the gold dragon being enveloped by an ocean of flames. At the same time, there were countless arcs of electricity ceaselessly striking the gold dragon from within the ocean of flames. The 9th hell-cold gale wasn't being idle as well, and it formed numerous fine tornadoes that cut the gold dragon incessantly like blades made of wind. Roar! The enormous dragon's roar resounded in the sky, and it carried a trace of pain. Yang Yi withdrew an extreme-grade energy stone and placed it in his pocket while he held Void Flash tightly in his right hand. Moreover, his gaze was boundlessly solemn. The gold dragon had underestimated him, and he'd similarly underestimated the gold dragon. Based on its body that was wriggling incessantly in midair, perhaps the sword of elements had injured the gold dragon, but it hadn't caused any lethal harm to the gold dragon. This dragon's physical defense was the strongest he'd ever encountered in the Exalt realm. Bang! Right at this moment, the gold dragon suddenly charged out from within the encirclement of the 3 natural treasures. Yang Yi issued a command in his heart, and then the violet cloud lightning flashed and transformed into an enormous violet-colored pillar of lightning that was over 100 m long, and it suddenly blasted against the divine gold dragon. At the same time, the nether ghost flame transformed into a ball of flames that struck forcefully against the dragon as well. Besides them, the 9th hell-cold gale returned to Yang Ye's back and transformed into the 9th hell sword wings. Bang! Bang! The collision with the 2 natural treasures blasted the enormous dragon out of the sky, and it fell into the ground. Swoosh! Swoosh! The nether ghost flame and violet cloud lightning flew back to Yang Yi. That divine gold dragon lost just like that? All the spectators were dumbstruck, and Nanjing frowned slightly while her gaze stared fixedly at the enormous hole in the ground. The sword chest on Yang Ye's back trembled slightly, and it seemed like the swords within it were about to charge out. Bang! Right at this moment, the enormous gold dragon suddenly charged out from beneath the ground. The spectators who paid attention to detail immediately noticed that the dragon was much larger than before, and there was a layer of golden scales which seemed like armor covering its entire body and claws. Divine dragon armor! Someone exclaimed with surprise. According to legend, the divine gold dragon clan's members were able to comprehend innate abilities upon their birth, And the most terrifying amongst those abilities was the Divine Dragon Armor, because the Divine Dragon Armor could instantly improve their defenses by 5 times. The Divine Gold Dragon clan's physical defenses were already considered the most terrifying amongst the Devil race, Human race, and Demon race. So, it was obvious how abnormal it would be once it was multiplied by 5 times. It could be said that once this Divine Gold Dragon had activated the Divine Dragon Armor, then his defenses could at least endure 2 full force attacks from a Monarch Realm expert. Of course, the Divine Dragon Armor wasn't without its limitations. Could only be used once every 30 years at least. And Nanjing was obviously aware of Divine Dragon Armor, so her expression had become solemn while her energy started to slowly circulate within Skysplit. It transformed. Yang Yi wasn't aware of the Divine Dragon Armor, but he knew that this colossus hadn't just survived his Sword of Elements. It had become even stronger than before. Now, not to mention the 3 natural treasures, even a Dao artifact enhanced by 3 natural treasures would probably be unable to break through this fellow's defenses. Should I try the Heavenren drawing technique? Or the sword domain? Yang Yi shook his head. He wasn't willing to use those 2 techniques unless he had no other choice. Since he couldn't use them, then he could only utilize the Ruin Sword formation. Human. Very good. Very good indeed. You've succeeded at infuriating me. You really have. I'll tear you apart. The enormous Divine Gold Dragon raised his right claw and clawed at Yang Yi from afar. In an instant, an enormous claw that was over 300 m in size had suddenly appeared, and then it smashed down forcefully towards Yang Yi. Yang Yi's eyes narrowed slightly when he saw that enormous claw descend towards him. He swiftly stomped his right foot on the ground and instantly transformed into a ray of dazzling light that shot into the sky, and he stabbed the enormous claw with Void Flash. Clang! Yang Yi's arms trembled violently when Void Flash stabbed the claw, and his sword was almost blasted out of his grip. Yang Yi's expression changed a little. Right at this moment, the enormous claw suddenly pressed down towards him and an enormous force assaulted him. Yang Yi's expression changed once more as he knew that he'd underestimated the gold dragon's defenses and strength after it transformed itself. He didn't dare go head-on against it anymore, so the 9th Hell sword wings behind his body flapped and transformed him into a black shadow that appeared 300 m away. Human, weren't you very strong? Stop running away. The gold dragon roared madly, but there was no complacency in its voice. Conversely, there was only boundless resentment and rage. After all, the Divine Dragon Armor was something that could only be utilized once in 30 years, and it was something to be used in the critical moment to save his own life. Yet now, he'd been forced to use it by this human ant. That was absolutely an extraordinary humiliation to a proud divine gold dragon. Yang Yi waved his right hand, and then 200 swords shot out from within him, and then he commanded them to transform into rays of light that shot violently at the dragon. At the same time, the 4 Dao artifacts in the sword chest shot into the sky as well, and they surged towards the divine gold dragon. Yang Yi believed that this transformation definitely had a time limit, and it would be time for that divine gold dragon to die once the transformation was over. So he intended to delay for now. Actually, he had no other choice. Perhaps he could break through the gold dragon's defenses if he utilized the Heavenren drawing technique or the sword domain. But he would be exposing his trump cards before Luo Jun's gaze if he did that, and that was a very stupid move. Human, you're trying to rely on these pieces of trash to hurt me? The gold dragon slapped his claw forward, and then countless swords were instantly blasted flying. But they immediately transformed into rays of light and shot towards him once again. He's trying to buy time. Right at this moment, the old drunkard by Luo Jun's side spoke abruptly. Yang Yi's eyes narrowed as he glanced at Luo Jun, and the latter revealed a cold smile. How despicable! That was what all the spectators thought about the old drunkard. Most of them had almost been killed by the dragon pressure emanated by those divine gold dragons, so they naturally didn't have a good impression of the dragons. Now that they saw Yang Yi was capable of posing a threat to the divine gold dragons, they naturally hoped that Yang Yi would win the battle. But they hadn't imagined that the old drunkard would be shameless to such an extent and expose Yang Yi's strategy. Only the gazes of a few descended onto Luo Jun. because all of them were very clearly aware that it was most probably Luo Jun who ordered the old drunkard to do that. Of course, they didn't dare voice out their suspicions. The divine gold dragon's pupils constricted when he heard the old drunkard. He didn't dare continue playing cat and mouse with Yang Yi. He immediately blew forward, and then a strand of dragon pressure surged out from his mouth and blew all of Yang Ye's sword away. The divine gold dragon didn't give those swords another opportunity to attack him, and his figure shot over and transformed into a ray of golden light that smashed down towards Yang Yi. This time, the divine gold dragon's speed was at least 2 times swifter than before. Yang Yi was caught off guard by this, and he was directly struck by it. The spectators watched with astonishment as both man and dragon shot deep into the ground. The sword emperor of this era has perished just like that. The minds of all the spectators had gone blank as they gazed at the enormous hold in the ground. That collision from before was truly too terrifying. Not to mention the body of a human. Even a mountain would have been blasted into pieces after the divine gold dragon slammed himself against it. Under such circumstances, no one felt that Yang Yi would be able to survive. A divine gold dragon with its divine dragon armor can be considered to be invincible within the Exalt realm. That fellow was really overestimating his ability. It would have been much better if he fled just now and waited until he attained the 9th rank of the Exalt realm, or even the 5th rank of the Exalt realm before he fought that divine gold dragon again. Alas, it's such a pity that he fought an ancient divine beast like the divine gold dragon when he has only just advanced into the Exalt realm. It really is a pity. I thought that Yang Yi would be able to reproduce the power and prestige of the Sword Sect's founding ancestor from all those years ago, but I never expected that. Even though he's dead, he can still be proud. After all, he forced a divine gold dragon to utilize its divine dragon armor. It really is a pity. The Sword Emperor. Luo Jun revealed a wisp of excitement, because even he felt that Yang Yi was quite troublesome to deal with now. Fortunately, Yang Yi was dead now, and he was even killed by the divine god dragon clan. In that way, a gap would surely appear in the relationship between the demon emperor and the divine gold dragon clan. These were definitely 2 good things for Luo Jun. The calmest person in the surroundings was in Nanjing. Even though Yang Yi had been smashed into the ground, she was very clearly aware that it was impossible for Yang Yi to die so easily. The divine gold dragon had indeed become very strong upon utilizing the divine dragon armor, and it was strong to the point even she wanted to have an intense battle with him. However, Yang Yi was very strong as well. Even until now, she still hadn't seen Yang Ye's strongest trump card. Moreover, she was confident in Yang Yi. Clang! Suddenly, a sword howl resounded from the enormous hole. Everyone's eyes opened wide. Yang Yi is still alive? The smile on Luo Jun's face froze. Roar! Right at this moment, a furious roar resounded from below. It was the divine gold dragon, and it was filled with pain. What exactly has occurred down there? Some walked towards the hole. Roar! 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 Numerous roars resounded again, but it wasn't long before they stopped abruptly. Bang! A ray of light shot up into the air, and then Yang Yi flew slowly out of the hold. At this moment, he was in quite an embarrassing state. His hair was disheveled. His clothes had been transformed into rags, and a huge amount of swollen skin was exposed in the air. Yang Yi glanced at Luo Jun and laughed coldly upon descending to the ground, and then he sat cross-legged at the side before he closed his eyes and recuperated. The gold dragons in the sky transformed into over a dozen robust men as they descended to the ground. Their gazes were locked onto the hole. Moreover, it wasn't just them. The gazes of everyone else in the surroundings was locked on the hole as well. Yang Yi has come out already, so that gold dragon should have come out as well. However, there wasn't any movement from within the hole even after 15 minutes had passed. Half an hour later, there was still no movement from below. At this moment, the spectators had a faint guess of the outcome. Luo Jun's face turned gloomy. Those robust men which the gold dragons had transformed into didn't wait any longer, and they leaped down into the enormous hold. All of them charged out a while later, and the robust man with thick brows who led the group glared angrily at Yang Yi. Human! Where's my older brother? Dead! Yang Yi didn't even open his eyes and spoke casually. What nonsense! How could you possibly kill my older brother? The robust man spoke furiously while a strand of dragon pressure shot out from within him. Go look for yourself if you don't believe me. Besides that, stop using that laughable dragon pressure of yours against me. That dragon pressure of yours is even weaker than a fart when compared to my sword intent. Yang Yi ceaselessly absorbed the energy within the extreme-grade energy stone in his hands. You're courting death. The robust man was just about to attack when a sword had appeared in front of him. Attack me if you think that your defenses are even greater than that older brother of yours. Let's see if I'll be able to take your head. Yang Yi opened his eyes and gazed at the robust man. When he recalled the scene from before, the robust man's fists tightened, relaxed, then tightened again. But he didn't dare to attack. His older brother's physical body was over 2 times stronger than his before the divine dragon armor was utilized. Yet this human before him had still pierced through his older brother's physical defenses. So, he wasn't confident at all in his ability to resist this human's sword. Human, what did you do to my older brother? The robust man spoke furiously. Yang Yi said, I'll tell you one last time. He's dead. Then where's his corpse? The robust man roared furiously. I don't know. Yang Yi spoke indifferently. You! The robust man's face turned livid with rage. Yang Yi paid no further attention to the robust man. At this moment, the important matter at hand for him was to recover as soon as possible. If he hadn't activated the Mortal Emperor armor at the critical moment just now, then he might have been crushed into mush from the collision just now. Moreover, he still hadn't gotten away unharmed even after he utilized the Mortal Emperor armor, and countless bones within his body had been broken. So how did the gold dragon die? Yang Yi hadn't held back at all upon falling deep underground. He'd utilized his 9th level sword intent, the sword domain, the 4 Dao artifacts within the blue sword chest, void flash, and the 3 natural treasures. It didn't take him long to slash open a spot on the divine dragon armor, and it was exactly where the divine gold dragon's reverse scale resided. Needless to say, the divine dragon armor was extremely abnormal. If Yang Ye's sword domain strength hadn't arrived at an extremely terrifying state, then he would have been utterly unable to break through the divine dragon armor. Actually, he was able to break apart the entire divine dragon armor while he utilized his sword domain, but the sword spirit had stopped him right before he could do it. So he only damaged a single spot on it. However, he'd still suffered enormous losses from the gold dragon's counterattacks when the gold dragon was on the verge of death. For example, the blue sword chest and the 4 Dao artifacts within it had been destroyed, and they couldn't be utilized anymore. But the price he paid was worth it because he had a divine gold dragon as a sword servant. Moreover, it was a divine gold dragon that still maintained a state of having the divine dragon armor activated. What did such a divine gold dragon as his sword servant represent? Of course, he had a very serious problem to deal with right now, and it was that the divine gold dragon clan would definitely not let the matter rest. But he didn't care. In any case, he'd become enemies with them, so he was determined to fight them if worse came to worse. He refused to believe that every single divine gold dragon could transform like the one he'd fought. The divine gold dragon is dead? The countless profounders in the surroundings were shocked upon hearing Yang Yi. No, they should be said to be astounded. My God, that was a divine gold dragon which had activated the divine dragon armor, but it's dead? Yang Yi killed it? The eyelids of Luo Jun and the others twitched, because if the gold dragon had died at Yang Ye's hands, then they had to reevaluate Yang Ye's strength. Luo Jun nodded slightly to Elder Yun, and the latter flashed into the enormous hole. A short while later, Elder Yun returned to Luo Jun's side and said, There are signs of an intense battle down there, but I didn't find the dragon's corpse. It's utterly impossible for Yang Yi to kill a divine gold dragon with its divine dragon armor activated. He's definitely hiding something. Luo Jun spoke in a heavy voice. He absolutely can't be allowed to live, Elder Yun said. He has only just advanced into the exact realm yet is already so monstrous. If he's allowed to attain the 5th rank or even the 9th rank of the Exalt realm, then even our joint forces would be unable to harm him at all. He must be eliminated. Why don't we ask a Nanjing to deal with him? The old drunkard suddenly said. A Nanjing's strength should be sufficient to deal with him. Luo Jun glanced at a Nanjing while a wisp of gloominess flashed in his eyes. He was naturally aware that a Nanjing was the only existence in the same realm of cultivation who could deal with Yang Yi. However, a Nanjing was extremely proud, so he was utterly unable to command her and didn't dare force her by any means, because it would definitely be an enormous calamity to the exalted Han Empire if he pushed her over to Yang Ye's side. Luo Jun pondered deeply for a moment before he said in a low voice, "I'll kill Yang Yi myself." Elder Yun remained silent. If it was before this battle, then he would still be extremely confident in Luo Jun. But now, if that divine gold dragon had really been killed by Yang Yi, then he truly doubted whether the mortal emperor could kill Yang Yi. Yang Yi, you'll suffer the frenzied vengeance of my divine gold dragon clan if you don't hand my older brother over. The robust man roared furiously. Yang Yi stood up slowly, and then he walked towards the robust man. The robust man was shocked by this and unconsciously took 2 steps back. Yang Yi said, "Looks like your divine gold dragon clan isn't anything great, and you can't accept your defeat just like the devil race." "You?" "What?" Yang Yi said. "It was your divine gold dragon clan which came looking for trouble with me, right?" "What? Now that your old brother failed at that and was killed by me instead, you intend to use your clan to threaten me? You still call yourself the prideful divine gold dragon clan? Let me ask you a question. What's prideful about all of you? You use the seniors of your clan to threaten me as soon as you fail in a one-on-one battle. Is this the pride you speak of? You?" Yang Yi waved his hand and said, "Remember this. It was a one-on-one battle between me and your older brother. It was a fair battle. I wouldn't have any resentment if I were the one to die, and I believe that your older brother would be the same. But you're actually using the divine gold dragon clan to threaten his opponent. Do you realize that your actions are disrespectful to him? If he knew what you'd done, he would definitely be infuriated to the point of dying once more in hell." The corners of a Nanjing's mouth twitched a little. When did this fellow learn how to talk glibly? Yang Yi continued, "The divine gold dragon clan is a clan of ancient divine beasts. If your entire clan sets out against me or you send monarch rank dragons against me, then I, Yang Yi, admit that I wouldn't be a match for that. But I'd like to ask whether your divine gold dragon clan dares to fight me in one-on-one battle? I'll just leave it at this. If your clan wants to take revenge, then fight me in a fair fight, and I'll fight you at any time. Of course, if your clan is afraid and insists on ganging up on me, then I can't do anything about that as well." Provocation. The simplest form of provocation. All the spectators felt that they had to reevaluate Yang Ye's intelligence. The robust man's expression became extremely unsightly. A one-on-one battle? His older brother was the strongest in the younger generation of the Divine Gold Dragon clan, but even his older brother had been killed by Yang Yi. So he wondered who would be a match for Yang Yi. Could it be that we really have to do as this human said? Our dignified clan of ancient divine beasts will have no choice but to gang up on a human. Isn't that a little too embarrassing? Human, you'll die a horrible death for offending my divine gold dragon clan. The robust man refused to show weakness, so he could only continue threatening Yang Yi with words. However, he didn't mention sending extraordinary experts of the divine gold dragon clan against Yang Yi again. Yang Yi shrugged and said, "Regardless of who your divine gold dragon clan sends to fight me in a one-on-one battle, I'll fight those battles until the end. Of course, if you intend to send monarch rank dragons against me, then I admit defeat right now." The corners of the robust man's mouth twitched. What a glib tongue! Right at this moment, a middle-aged man suddenly appeared in front of Yang Yi. Yang Ye's expression changed because it was a monarch realm expert. No, he should be called a monarch rank expert. Lord Dragon Emperor. The robust man and the others knelt down immediately with extremely respectful expressions on their faces. Dragon Emperor? Everyone else here was extremely shocked. Who was the Dragon Emperor? He was one of the few supreme experts on the continent. He was a true elusive figure. So, they'd never imagined that Yang Yi would have actually made the Dragon Emperor show himself. The Dragon Emperor glanced at Yang Yi and said, "As expected of someone that the Demon Emperor admires, you've attained such strength at such a young age. Ao Kuang still died at your hands even after he utilized his divine dragon armor. The Grand Elder of the Devil race was right. You really are even more outstanding than the Sword Sect's founding ancestor." "Senior, you're too kind," said Yang Yi. The Dragon Emperor suddenly said, "Do you know why I haven't killed you?" Yang Ye's eyelids twitched. "So this fellow really intended to kill me." The Dragon Emperor continued, "Even the Demon Emperor wouldn't be able to stop me if I wanted to kill you. Moreover, I believe that he wouldn't and would dare not fight my divine Gold Dragon clan to the death even if I killed you. Neither he nor I can afford to do that. There's only a single reason why I haven't killed you, and it's because there's irreconcilable enmity between you and the mortal emperor, Luo Jun. To put it simply, my demon race needs the two of you to fight and kill each other. And that's the reason why you're able to continue living. Understand? Senior's strength is extraordinary, so anything that Senior says goes," said Yang Yi. "You're a smart person who knows how to exercise forbearance. You aren't brave yet unwise like you seem on the surface," said the Dragon Emperor. Yang Yi said, "Everything is useless before absolute strength, right?" The Dragon Emperor smiled and said, "Human, I admire you slightly even though you're a human. I hope the Demon Emperor's decision is right. Otherwise, you'll definitely become a great enemy of my demon race." When he spoke up to this point, he turned around to glance at the other divine gold dragons and said, "From this moment onward, all of you are forbidden from offending him, and avoid conflict with him in the human world. Understand?" "Yes." All of them spoke in an extremely respectful manner. The Dragon Emperor's figure flashed and vanished on the spot. Yang Yi raised his head and looked up into the sky. "The experts of the human race, demon race, and devil race are all here. I'm afraid it isn't just for the sake of protecting the members of their respective races. Right?" At this moment, the gazes of everyone towards Yang Yi had changed. Some carried respect, some had envy in them, some were fervent, and there were also some which were gloomy and resentful. Obviously, the name, the Sword Emperor Yang Yi, would truly spread throughout profounder continent from today onward. 10,000 years ago, the founding ancestor of the Sword Sect had reigned supreme over the devil race and demon race. Now, Yang Yi had done the same. Regardless of the overall situation, Yang Yi had become the representative of the human race because only he was able to make both the devil race and divine gold dragon clan choose to make a concession. Especially the sword cultivators in the surroundings, all of them had forgotten that Yang Yi was from the Southern Territory. All they knew was that Yang Yi was the true Sword Emperor, a true emperor amongst sword cultivators. At this moment, Luo Jun had a slightly gloomy expression on his face. Yang Ye's surging influence and reputation was definitely a very bad thing to him, because it would affect his status. If everyone in the world knew the Sword Emperor yet didn't know the Mortal Emperor, then how would he unite the continent? Since he was enemies with Yang Yi, then all those who intended to side with him would probably think of Yang Yi before they made their decision. I should have stopped at nothing to eliminate him in the beginning. Luo Jun really felt quite regretful. He'd underestimated Yang Ye's potential, thoroughly underestimated it. The price he would have to pay to kill Yang Yi in the beginning wasn't very high at all. But now, he might not be able to kill Yang Yi with ease even if he paid a huge price. Clang! As if it had sensed the mental state of its owner, the Mortal Emperor's sword in Luo Jun's hand suddenly emanated a sword howl, and it caused the gazes of everyone in the surroundings to descend onto Luo Jun. Yang Ye's gaze descended onto Luo Jun as well. Or to be more precise, Yang Ye's gaze had descended onto the Mortal Emperor's sword in Luo Jun's possession. Truthfully speaking, he was quite curious about it. It's a natural Dao artifact, so it's definitely much stronger than Void Flash. I wonder how strong it is exactly. When he thought up to this point, Yang Yi smiled, closed his eyes and regulated his breathing, because he knew that Luo Jun wouldn't fight him until Luo Jun was completely confident in his ability to kill him. Moreover, Yang Yi hadn't recovered completely from his injuries, so he didn't want to fight anyone as well. In any case, a fight would definitely occur between them in the future. Mortal Emperor, don't be rash. Elder Yun spoke hastily. If Luo Jun were to challenge Yang Yi now, then while it would be fine if he won, the consequence of defeat was a disastrous decline in Luo Jun's reputation. At that time, Luo Jun would probably be in a very bad situation. Luo Jun placed his hand on the Mortal Emperor's sword and said, "Don't worry, Elder Yun. I won't be rash. However, once General Zhao subdues the Eastern Territory, then I'll slaughter him with my sword while everyone watches." Haha, a true sword emperor killed by a sword. It seems to have never happened in the past. I really look forward to that. Elder Yun and the others heaved sighs of relief. Truthfully speaking, they didn't look favorably upon Luo Jun's chances if he were to challenge Yang Yi now. Because Yang Yi wasn't just formidable, he was very mysterious. No one knew how he'd killed the divine gold dragon, and they didn't know what he'd done with the gold dragon's corpse. At this moment, Luo Jun only possessed the faith energy of a single territory, so it was very risky for Luo Jun to fight Yang Yi now. And Nanjing walked over to Yang Ye's side and asked, "How did you kill that dragon?" The gazes of countless people shot over when they noticed Nanjing walking over to Yang Ye's side, and all of them had quite strange expressions on their faces. Didn't the legends say that the martial god and sword emperor have always been fated foes? Why do the two of them seem to show no signs of being enemies, and they even seem like friends instead? The expressions of Luo Jun and the others in his group became quite unsightly. And Nanjing was a member of the Yin clan, and the Yin clan had sided with Luo Jun. So, wasn't Nanjing's actions of talking with Yang Yi in public like striking a slap on Luo Jun's face? What a treacherous woman. Let me teach her a lesson. The old drunkard spat, and then his figure charged forward. Luo Jun and the others weren't able to stop him in time, and they only heard him say, "And Nanjing, you should remember your identity. Your Yin clan is a subject of the Mortal Emperor now, so you are the Mortal Emperor's subject as well. Stop such treacherous actions, or it might bring calamity to your Yin clan." As he spoke these words, the old drunkard had even shot a glance at Luo Jun on purpose. He felt that this was what Luo Jun wanted, but Luo Jun was someone of high status, so Luo Jun naturally couldn't speak these words himself. Since Luo Jun couldn't speak such words, then a subordinate like him had to do it. The old drunkard hoped to see praise from Luo Jun when he looked at Luo Jun, but he noticed that there was no praise in Luo Jun's eyes, and there was only fury. The old drunkard's heart twitched. Could it be that I made a wrong guess again? That was also his final thought. Hiss! A strand of golden light tore through the sky, and then it took the old drunkard flying with it and flew for almost 300 m before finally stopping. A spear was stabbed into the ground, and the old drunkard's corpse was hanging at the middle of it. The old drunkard's eyes were opened wide, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. And Nanjing actually dared to kill him? She dared to kill him? Luo Jun's eyes were filled with disbelief. She struck a lethal attack right away? She didn't even give me any face? What is she doing? And Nanjing gestured with her hand and Sky Split flew back into her grasp. She glanced at the old drunkard's corpse which had fallen to the ground and said, "My identity? A subject? What a joke. Can anyone in this world even make me?" And Nanjing, submit? When she spoke up to this point, and Nanjing gazed at Luo Jun and said, "Luo Jun, my Yin clan has sided with you, but it doesn't represent that I, and Nanjing, have done the same. So, make your subordinates mind their words, otherwise, I'll slaughter all of them." She was domineering and extremely prideful. Earlier, everyone here had overlooked Nanjing because of Yang Yi. At this moment, and Nanjing's attack told everyone here what the martial god represented. And Nanjing, what's the meaning of this? The woman behind Luo Jun stepped forward and spoke with a low voice. "You refuse to accept it?" And Nanjing's brows raised, and then she pointed her spear at the old woman and said, "Then come give it a try?" The old woman's eyelids twitched, and she was just about to attack when Luo Jun stopped her. Even though he didn't know exactly how strong Nanjing was, he was clearly aware that she was absolutely not inferior to Yang Yi. Moreover, She was holding a natural Tao artifact which wasn't inferior to the mortal emperor sword he possessed. Under such circumstances, he felt that Grandma Rong might really be killed by a Nanjing. Luo Jun gazed at a Nanjing and said, "Missen, even though my subordinate was slightly disrespectful to you, it wasn't necessary to take his life, right? Haven't you gone a little too far by doing that?" A Nanjing said, "Luo Jun, you have to get this straight. I, a Nanjing, am a Nanjing, and the Clan is the Clan. Don't ever think that I, a Nanjing, have sided with you just because my Clan has, and don't ever think that I, a Nanjing, would hold back and hesitate because I'm afraid of you. Besides that, let me declare that the Clan and I are two separate entities. So, if you or your subordinates offend me again, then I'll annihilate you." A slap. A direct and undisguised slap to the face. Yang Yi was overjoyed in his heart. She really is too domineering and too cute. Ha ha ha. Luo Jun's face became truly gloomy this time. He'd thought that Yang Yi was extremely arrogant and haughty, but he'd never imagined that there was someone even more arrogant and haughty than Yang Yi. How could Luo Jun endure having his face slapped in public? Luo Jun's hand moved slowly towards the mortal emperor's sword. Void flash reappeared in Yang Ye's grasp, and excitement had appeared in his eyes as he gazed at Luo Jun. Moreover, he shouted incessantly in his heart, "Do it, Luo Jun. Attack her. Attack and I'll join forces with a Nanjing to kill you." So long as a Nanjing kept those three fellows by Luo Jun's side busy, then he was confident in his ability to kill Luo Jun in a very short time, and he wouldn't hesitate to expose the strength of his sword domain to accomplish it. Luo Jun's face warped a little from being provoked by a Nanjing in public. The mortal emperor's sword trembled incessantly, and it was like it wanted to charge forward and strike a Nanjing. Even though Luo Jun was beyond furious right now, he still didn't allow his rage to overwhelm his mind. If he were to attack right now, then it would represent pushing a Nanjing to Yang Ye's side. If Yang Yi were to join forces with a Nanjing, then could anyone below the monarch realm do anything to them? Of course, there was another reason. It was that he wasn't confident in his ability to defeat a Nanjing at all. He was the mortal emperor, the representative of the world. So he couldn't lose. Once he did, then he would suffer a disastrous decline to his reputation, and it was very likely that those who followed him would become disloyal. Moreover, those who were still hesitant would definitely not choose him anymore. So, he absolutely couldn't attack unless he was absolutely certain. But if he didn't act, then there would be no need to wait for the future because he would suffer a disastrous decline to his reputation right here and now. At this moment, Luo Jun really wanted to whip the old drunkard's corpse. If that fellow hadn't acted on his own, then he wouldn't have had to fall into such a dilemma. Luo Jun, aren't you called the mortal emperor of the human world? You wouldn't be afraid to even accept a challenge from her, right? Meanwhile, Mo Xian laughed coldly. The mortal emperor? What a pussy! The robust man from the divine gold dragon clan glanced at Luo Jun with disdain. At this moment, he had a bad impression of the entire human race because of Yang Yi, and the sight of any human displeased him. The human profounders at the side gazed at Luo Jun as well. Even though they didn't speak out and mock him, their faces were covered in mocking expressions, and some even bluntly revealed their ridicule and disdain on their faces. Luo Jun's expression grew even more unsightly. Right at this moment, the old man by his side, Elder Yun, said, "Martial Godin, I've heard so much about you, so allow me to experience your ability. Geezer, you're really shameless." Meanwhile, Yang Yi suddenly spoke loudly. "You're at the 9th rank of the Exalt Realm while a Nanjing has only just advanced into the Exalt Realm, yet you actually shamelessly challenged her. Could it be that your exalted Han Empire doesn't have anyone capable? Or perhaps your exalted Han Empire is filled with a bunch of trash who only know how to bully those who are weaker. Right? The experts of your exalted Han Empire have always been like that." Elder Yun's eyes narrowed as he gazed at Yang Yi, and he said, "You won't be able to live for long. Threatening me now?" Yang Yi chuckled and said, "Right, your exalted Han Empire has that many experts. What should I do if it were to dispatch a few thousand Exalt Realm experts to pursue and kill me?" When he spoke up to this point, Yang Yi gazed at Luo Jun and said, "Luo Jun, You call yourself the mortal emperor, but in my opinion, you're just a piece of trash. Because all you know is to stand behind a group of experts and remain protected by them. To be a little arrogant. If you didn't have all of those guards, then killing you would really be like slaughtering a dog. Killing intent surged through Luo Jun's eyes. How presumptuous! Elder Yun shouted furiously as he slapped his palm towards Yang Yi. The might of this strike was extremely formidable. Space directly collapsed in its wake. Moreover, the space in an area of almost 10 m around his palm had started to crack like spiderwebs were forming all over. Yang Yi had a cold smile on his face, but there was a solemn expression in his eyes. The old man was much stronger than the old drunkard. So Yang Yi didn't dare act carelessly and was just about to draw his sword. Meanwhile, Nanjing suddenly stood in front of Yang Yi, and then she suddenly stabbed Skysplit towards that palm. Elder Yun's expression changed, and he swiftly withdrew his palm. There was a solemn expression in his eyes as he gazed at his palm, which had fine cracks all over it. And Nanjing pointed her spear at Elder Yun and said, "Didn't you want to fight me? Come, let me see exactly how formidable a 9th rank Exalt Realm expert is. Let me do it." Meanwhile, Luo Jun spoke abruptly. He knew that his reputation would decline if he didn't make his stand clear. "No!" Elder Yun and some of the experts by Luo Jun's side exclaimed. Especially Elder Yun. Just that collision with a Nanjing allowed him to realize that Luo Jun was absolutely not a match for a Nanjing right now. If he were to fight a Nanjing right now, then it was very likely that Luo Jun would die, and even if he survived, he would definitely be defeated. Luo Jun could absolutely not be allowed to lose now, no matter what. "Are you finally not going to be a coward anymore?" Mo Xian laughed coldly and said, "Luo Jun, I've never seen the might of the mortal emperor's sword, so I hope that you don't disappoint me. Otherwise, it would really be too boring." He was one of the happies to see the humans fight each other. Luo Jun glanced coldly at Mo Xian before he took a step forward. Right at this moment, Elder Yun stood before Luo Jun's path and obstructed him. "Mortal Emperor, you can't act on impulse when your life is related to the lives of a myriad living beings. A little lack of forbearance will cause great plans to be spoiled. You'll have the chance to fight a Nanjing and Yang Yi in the future, so why act on impulse now? Don't forget the true reason why we've come here." "Elder Yun is right," the old woman said. "Mortal Emperor, your method of cultivation is unlike all of us ordinary profounders. Wouldn't it be extremely easy to kill a Nanjing and Yang Yi once Zhao Zhangfei subdues the Eastern Territory? Of course, an emperor's subjects deserve death for allowing their emperor to be insulted. So we, your subordinates, deserve death. Please provide us with your punishment." Luo Jun took a deep breath while his grasp on the mortal emperor's sword slowly relaxed. Elder Yun heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. He was worried that Yang Yi would say something insulting again, so he immediately flashed explosively towards Yang Yi. Moreover, the old woman followed closely behind him, and a few strands of silver light shot violently towards Yang Yi. The corners of Yang Ye's mouth twitched. It's clearly a Nanjing who provoked Luo Jun. But these fellows aren't looking for trouble with her and are coming for me instead? Could it be that I'm such an easy target to be bullied? Yang Yi waved Void Flash, and a few light clangs resounded as those silver needles scattered on the ground. Meanwhile, Elder Yun had arrived in front of him. Elder Yun was just about to attack when a Nanjing appeared in front of Yang Yi again. Elder Yun's figure stopped moving when he saw a Nanjing. He was naturally not afraid if he were to face just a Nanjing or Yang Yi. But if the two of them joined forces. "And Nanjing, do you really intend to go against the exalted Han Empire?" said Elder Yun in a low voice. And Nanjing said, "It's all of you who are going against me. The old drunkard is already dead. What else do you want?" said Elder Yun. "Like I said before, don't offend me." As soon as she finished speaking, she turned around and gazed at Yang Yi. "Let's go. I have many other things to ask you." Yang Yi's heart felt slightly warm. He was naturally aware that this was a form of kindness from a Nanjing. He wasn't even slightly confident in his ability to resist the joint forces of Elder Yun and that old woman. Moreover, there was a black-clothed figure watching from the side as well. Of course, he was still able to deal with Luo Jun's group if he were forced into a corner, and he would just have to expose the existence of his sword servants and some other trump cards of his. Even though his trump cards were very important, it would be stupid not to use them even when he was in danger. Yang Yi didn't want to refuse her good intentions, so he nodded and walked off within Nanjing. The corners of all the spectators, including those from the devil race and demon race, twitched when they witnessed this scene. If the two of them really do join forces, then would any other party be able to deal with them in the Saint Ruins? Even the proud members of the Divine Gold Dragon clan had to admit that all of them would definitely be unable to fight back, and would only be slaughtered if a Nanjing and Yang Yi joined forces. Who the fuck said that the Sword Emperor and Martial God are fated enemies? Aren't you afraid that Luo Jun would act against your clan? Asked Yang Yi. And Nanjing glanced at him and said, he wouldn't dare, at least not for now. Or to be more precise, he wouldn't dare until he has eliminated me. Aren't you afraid that the Monarch Realm experts of the exalted Han Empire would attack you? Yang Yi admitted that Nanjing's strength was very extraordinary, but no matter how extraordinary it was impossible for her to resist Monarch Realm experts with her current cultivation. Exalt Realm experts surmounting a realm of cultivation to fight Monarch Realm experts? That was a joke. No one had ever accomplished it throughout the history of the continent. Because the gap between those two realms was really like the gap between the heavens and the earth. Mayan clan has Monarch Realm experts as well, and Nanjing said, moreover, it's one of the strongest in the world. The exalted Han Empire wouldn't dare act against me while he's still alive. Because even the exalted Han Empire is unable to endure the revenge of such an expert. Especially at such a time. A supreme expert. Yang Yi came to an understanding now. And Nanjing's clan had an existence that was similar to the Demon Emperor. But if the clan had such a formidable existence, then why haven't the two clans been joined into one? And Nanjing seemed to know what he was thinking and said, the ancestor refused to pay any attention to the split in the clan. Actually, it can be said that he doesn't bother about the entire clan. If it weren't for me appearing within the clan, he would probably not even return to the clan. Yang Yi couldn't help but smile bitterly and shake his head. Only now did he notice that regardless of how much of a monstrous genius one was or how terrifying one was, unless one had some backing and background, then it was utterly useless before the great powers of the continent. Because it was truly too easy for them to annihilate someone without any backing or background. Just like him. If he didn't have the Demon Emperor's support, then the Monarch Realm experts of the exalted Han Empire would have probably annihilated him a long time ago. Those three fellows are all at the 9th rank of the Exalt Realm, and they're very strong. No matter if it's you or me, we wouldn't be able to resist their joint forces on our own. It's best not to go head-on against them if you encounter them within the ruins, said Nanjing. Yang Yi nodded and said, don't worry, I won't do something like giving my life away. My target is the world portrait, and I'll leave once I get it. I won't go looking for trouble with them. Of course, the precondition is that they don't come looking for trouble with me. And Nanjing nodded. Suddenly, her gaze shot towards the mountain range in the distance and said, is the defensive grand formation around it finally about to be broken open? At this moment, everyone else in the surroundings had shot their gazes over to the mountain range. Because the mist around the mountain range had actually started to flow swiftly, and the thin barrier had started to warp as well. Right at this moment, the Dragon Emperor, the Grand Elder of the Devil race, and a wild-haired old man appeared before the barrier. All of them clenched their right fists before forcefully smashing a punch against the barrier. The others in the surroundings watched with excitement as an explosion resounded, and then the entire barrier exploded apart, while countless strands of mist swept towards the surroundings. Charge! Someone amidst the crowd shouted, and then countless figures charged towards the mountain range. Palace appeared before their eyes. The palace was huge and grand. Even with their strengths at the Exalt realm, they were still unable to discern exactly how large it was while they stood before it. Before them was an expanse of stone steps which were around 10 kilometers in both length and breadth. The stone steps continued all the way up continuously into the distance, and a large door which was over 300 m tall and wide stood at the end of the stone steps. There were 3 words inscribed above the door: Lu Yun Palace. Charge! All of their eyes instantly turned red with greed when they saw those 3 words, and their figures flashed up into the air above the stone steps. However, a faint fluctuation suddenly flashed through space when they just arrived in the air above the stone steps, and then shrill cries resounded from them as they were directly obliterated in midair. The expressions of everyone here changed. Xianxia's heart shook as well because the fluctuation from before was something that even he was probably unable to resist. He glanced towards the surroundings, and then his expression gradually turned solemn. This entire place was suffused with an aura of strangeness, and he felt that he really might perish here from even the slightest mistake. Right at this moment, an old man who wore a blue-colored Taoist's robe appeared above the stone steps. The expressions on the faces of everyone here changed once more when they saw the blue-robed old man. There's someone alive here? Xianxia's eyelids twitched as well. Could this old man be Saint Lu Yun? If he really is, then isn't this a little too terrifying? After all, Saint Lu Yun was an existence who was far more ancient than the Sword Sect's founding ancestor, so it made Xianxia wonder exactly how long Saint Lu Yun had lived if it really was him. Everyone here revealed reverence in their eyes when they saw the old man. Even everyone within Luo Jun's group had fear covering their faces, because their exalted Han Empire had personally experienced how terrifying Saint Realm experts were. If a Saint Realm expert had ill intent towards them, then even he would probably die, because the exalted Han Empire didn't possess a Saint Realm expert as well. The old man glanced at the crowd below and said, "You can only walk if you want to enter Lu Yun Palace." The old man turned around and entered the palace once he finished speaking. Walk? Xianxia's brows knit together slightly. Could these stone steps be hiding some sort of secret? After that group of Exalt Realm experts had been annihilated just now, all the profounders here, including the members of the Divine Gold Dragon Clan and Devil Race, didn't dare act rashly. Even though the old man said that they would walk into the palace, even an idiot knew that it was absolutely not so simple. So all of them were waiting for someone to test the waters. Right at this moment, Nanjing walked slowly towards the stone steps, and the gazes of everyone descended onto her. Nanjing was just about to step foot on the first level when Xianxia appeared by her side, and he grinned as he said, "Let's go together, all right?" Nanjing glanced at Xianxia, and then she nodded. Both of them stepped foot onto the first level. Nothing happened. Only Nanjing and Xianxia frowned slightly because they felt their bodies grow slightly heavy when they stepped on that level. It was gravity. The stone steps were covered in the force of gravity. This should be a test. Nanjing said, "It's a test for all the profounders here. Those who have comparatively low cultivations or attain their cultivations by relying on external sources of strength will definitely be eliminated by the stone steps. Looks like the rumor about Saint Lu Yun's inheritance might not be a groundless rumor." "Did you come for the inheritance?" asked Xianxia. Nanjing shook her head and didn't speak. Xianxia rubbed his nose and said, "Do you think that old man from before was Saint Lu Yun?" Nanjing said, "He probably wasn't. If Saint Lu Yun was still alive, then he would have no reason to be holed up here. Even the heavens would have to fear an expert at his level." Xianxia said, "Then who's that old man?" Nanjing glanced at him and said, "Do you think I know?" Xianxia was speechless. Nanjing and Xianxia strode up, step by step. Their speed wasn't very quick yet wasn't slow as well. In any case, they didn't show any signs of stopping. Moreover, a group of profounders were following behind them. However, that group of profounders was slowly shrinking because a profounder would be unable to endure the force of gravity and roll down the stone steps at practically every single level they advanced to. At this moment, it was obvious which one of them had utilized external forces to attain their current cultivations. The group right behind Nanjing and Xianxia was Luo Jun's group, which consisted of himself, Shadow, and Elder Yun. Further behind their group of 3 was the Devil Race's Mo Xian and Mo Ku, and that robust man with thick brows from the Divine Gold Dragon Clan. The other profounders of the 3 races were all behind these groups. Nanjing, can I ask you a question? What do you intend to do once you've become a peerless expert and attained a level that you're satisfied with?" asked Xianxia. He was very curious about what else Nanjing cared about besides the martial Dao. Nanjing fell silent for a short while before she said, "I don't know." Yang Yi suddenly said, "Could it be that you've never thought about marrying someone?" The force of gravity they experienced was growing stronger and stronger, and it was to the point that cold sweat had appeared on his face. However, they were only halfway to the top. So, he raised a topic which he felt could lighten the atmosphere. And Nanjing turned her head to gaze at him, and she stared at him until he felt quite uncomfortable before she said, "Marry who?" Yang Yi laughed bitterly and said, "How would I know? But don't all women have to marry someone?" And Nanjing remained silent for a while before she suddenly said, "Why did you help me block off those arrows outside Ancient Domain City that day?" Yang Yi was stunned, and then he replied with a question. "If I didn't have the strength to protect myself at that time yet you did, then would you just watch as I died?" And Nanjing had followed him to attack the Flower Palace in the Southern Territory, and just that made it impossible for him to do nothing to save her. Moreover, he'd really taken her to be a friend. "Because we're friends?" asked Nanjing. Yang Yi said, "I treat others the same way they treat me. You didn't abandon me at that time. You didn't choose to leave me during that dangerous situation in the Flower Palace. So, how could I possibly just abandon you and flee myself which we were outside Ancient Domain City that day? Truthfully speaking, it felt very bad for me when I found out that your clan had sided with Luo Jun because I felt that we might really become enemies in the future." And Nanjing, "Do you think that we'll become enemies?" In terms of strength, and Nanjing was the only profounder in the same realm of cultivation who he wasn't confident in being able to defeat. In terms of relationship, he'd taken her to be his friend, so he naturally didn't want to fight a battle of life and death with someone he once considered a friend. And Nanjing suddenly said, "If we became enemies one day and you had the ability to kill me, then would you do it?" Yang Yi replied with a question. "What about you? Would you kill me?" And Nanjing raised her head and looked up ahead while she slowly ascended them with Yang Yi. And she said, "The future is unknown, but I'm sure of one thing. I won't betray you if you don't betray me. All right? Betray." The corners of Yang Ye's mouth twitched. Her words are really easy to be misunderstood. But he'd confirmed a single thing, and that was her attitude towards him. He was able to discern that she'd taken him to be her friend. "Looks like I should go contact the clan soon." Yang Yi had decided that he would head to the clan and speak to Nanjing's clansman once he obtained the world portrait, because he refused to allow Nanjing to be used by Luo Jun. The old man in Taoist robes suddenly appeared once more at the end of the stone steps. The old man revealed excitement in his eyes as he gazed at Yang Yi and Nanjing, who were still climbing the stone steps at the same speed, and he said in a low voice, "What a strong foundation. Even though they've only just entered the Exalt realm, such a solid foundation is something that even ordinary 9th rank Exalt realm experts aren't able to compare to. Interesting. I never expected that such geniuses would have appeared in the continent after more than 10,000 years. It seems to be too easy for the two of you, so I'll be a little hard on you." As soon as he finished speaking, the old man stretched out his right hand and then suddenly pressed it downwards. "Ah! Ah!" Shrill cries resounded from countless profounders on the stone steps below, and then they rolled down the stone steps. The countenance from everyone within Luo Jun's group, the Divine Gold Dragon clan, and the Devil race turned pale. Moreover, there was even a Divine Gold Dragons and a member of the Devil race who rolled down from the stone steps as well. And Nanjing and Yang Ye's expressions changed as well because the current gravity they experienced was 20 times the norm. Both of them glanced at the old man, and the latter revealed a teasing expression. Bang! 7th level sword intent surged out from within Yang Yi, and then the gravity instantly vanished into nothingness. Since the gold man was doing it on purpose, then he felt that there was no need for him to continue concealing his strength. At the same time, a strand of fist intent surged out from within a Nanjing as well. The sword intent and fist intent were very close together, but the two intents didn't come into conflict with each other while under Yang Yi and a Nanjing's control. Moreover, their intents even worked together to resist the gravity. A strand of pure White King energy surged out from within Luo Jun. As soon as the king energy appeared, a huge amount of the gravity Luo Jun's group experienced had instantly vanished. A cold smile appeared on the corners of Luo Jun's mouth as he gazed at Yang Yi and in Nanjing, and then he quickened his pace as if he wanted to surpass Yang Yi and in Nanjing. The Sword Emperor? The Martial God? Even the Mortal Emperor? TSK, how interesting. The Sword Emperor, Martial God, and Mortal Emperor have actually been born in the same age. How truly interesting. Ha ha ha. The old man carefully sized up Yang Yi, and Nanjing and Luo Jun, and then the smile on the corners of his mouth grew wider. After that, he raised his right hand again and pressed it downwards. Ah! A few thousand profounders on the stone steps immediately rolled down from it, and the number of figures rolling down the stone steps was increasing incessantly. Only a few breaths of time had passed when only a few hundred profounders were left on the stone steps. Luo Jun, Mo Xian, Mo Ku, and the members of the Divine God Dragon clan had all stopped on the spot. Such gravitational force was something that almost made even them kneel on the spot. If they weren't afraid that the old man might be Saint Lu Yun, all of them would have started cursing by now. Aren't you clearly playing tricks on us all? Yang Yi and Nanjing stopped on the spot as well because the current gravitational force was at least 40 times the norm. They were still in comparatively better states because while 40 times the normal amount of gravity was strenuous to them, it was only strenuous. That geezer is acting against us. We must get to the end in one go, otherwise it might become 50 times or even 100 times the normal gravity, said Yang Yi. And Nanjing nodded. Yang Yi asked, "Let's work together? Otherwise, I'm afraid that he would suddenly make it even more difficult while we're halfway there." And Nanjing didn't refuse and nodded again. When he saw her nod, Yang Yi stopped hesitating and grabbed Nanjing's hand. Yang Yi really wasn't trying to take advantage of her, nor did he have any thoughts of doing so. The reason he'd grabbed her hand was because their wills had to merge together through their bodies, otherwise, their bodies would definitely reject the will of the other. And Nanjing's figure stiffened slightly when Yang Yi grabbed her hand, and then she turned her head to glance at him, yet didn't say anything. "Let's go!" Yang Yi shouted as he pulled Nanjing's hand and flashed swiftly up the stone steps. Even though the two of them weren't flying, moving at their full strength made them no slower than flying. Less than 2 breaths of time had passed before they passed a few hundred steps. A wisp of surprise flashed through the old man's eyes when he saw Nanjing and Yang Yi ascend swiftly. Because the stone steps were covered with 40 times the normal strength of gravity, and it shocked him that they actually seemed to not be affected at all. Interesting. A wisp of a smile arose on the corners of the old man's mouth, and then he pressed his palm downward. 80 times the normal strength of gravity. This time, the old man didn't increase the gravity for everyone, and he only did it especially for Nanjing and Yang Yi, because he was very clearly aware that their lives wouldn't be in danger even if they endured 80 times the normal strength of gravity. If the others were to suddenly suffer 80 times the force of gravity pressing down upon them, then they would definitely be crushed to death on the spot. Yang Yi and Nanjing suddenly stopped moving when the gravity they experienced had risen to 80 times the norm. But in the next moment, the energy of 2 terrifying intents surged out explosively from within their bodies, and then they flashed swiftly up the stone steps again. This time, they were even faster than before. The old man's expression changed slightly when he witnessed this scene. He instinctively raised his hand and pressed down, and then he immediately regretted his decision, because it was now 160 times the normal force of gravity. When 160 times the normal force of gravity pressed down upon them, the energy of intent which surged around them had been instantly blasted apart, and it caused their bodies to stoop. If their wills weren't firm and tenacious to the extreme, then they would have probably slumped to the ground. Motherfucker! Is that geezer trying to kill us? Yang Yi felt like the bones throughout his body were cracking when this mountain of gravity smashed down upon him. And Nanjing frowned as well, and besides bewilderment, there was also a trace of anger in her eyes. The two of them relied on their strong wills to stand up slowly. The old man who was about to withdraw the gravity exclaimed with surprise upon witnessing this scene, and he gazed at Nanjing and Yang Yi with astonishment. because that was 160 times the normal strength of gravity. They are even able to endure that. The surprise in the old man's eyes gradually transformed into pleasant surprise. Why haven't Nanjing and Yang Yi stopped moving? Elder Yun spoke abruptly. Luo Jun and the others raised their heads to look over upon hearing this. Sure enough, Nanjing and Yang Yi were standing on the spot without moving. However, their expressions immediately changed drastically when they saw Yang Yi and Nanjing holding hands. Especially Luo Jun, his expression had instantly turned gloomy. Because the thing he didn't want to see the most was Yang Yi and Nanjing joining forces. But the current scene told him that there was definitely something between the two of them. They might have offended that old man. Elder Yun said, the reason they aren't moving might be because the old man is targeting them. Haha. Those who flaunt their strength are always prone to dying earlier. They disregarded the force of gravity from before. So isn't that like a slap to the old man's face? Now, he has even started targeting them. This is the best opportunity to kill them. The black-clothed figure by Luo Jun's side spoke abruptly. Elder Yun's eyes lit up when he heard this, and he said, Shadow is right. Mortal Emperor, the two of them aren't moving at all right now, so the old man has definitely done something to them. It's precisely the best moment to act against them. Luo Jun was slightly tempted by this, but he seemed to have some worries as well. Mortal Emperor, we won't have another opportunity like this, so we can't let it slip by. We must attack right away. Elder Yun spoke in a slightly anxious voice. Luo Jun fell silent for a while before a fierce expression flashed through his eyes. He said, Elder Yun, Shadow. Both of you attack together, and Nanjing and Yang Yi have to be eliminated, otherwise we can forget about the future. I wouldn't even be able to obtain the world portrait if they were to continue joining forces in St. Lu Yun's ruins. So they must die. Elder Yun and Shadow nodded, and then they sped up. The gravity is too strong. Do you have any way to deal with it? Yang Yi spoke in a low voice. He could overcome the gravity and blast it apart if he utilized his sword domain, but he didn't want to expose how terrifying it was unless he had no other choice. Moreover, who knew what the old man at the top of the steps would do even if he did utilize his sword domain? He's targeting us, said Nanjing. Could it be because we're too extraordinary? Said Yang Yi. And Nanjing's eyelids twitched, and then she glanced at Yang Yi and said, The stone steps are used to eliminate and test us. Our display was too extraordinary, and it can be said to be like a slap to the geezer's face. That's why he's increasing the gravity we experience. Of course, this is a good thing because it represents that he thinks highly of us. If you're able to ascend to the end of the stone steps while suffering from 160 times the normal force of gravity, then perhaps he will give St. Lu Yun's inheritance to you. Are you not interested in St. Lu Yun's inheritance at all? Yang Yi said, That's the inheritance of a Saint Realm expert. And Nanjing shook her head and said, I have my own path of the martial Tao. Yang Yi was about to speak when the gravity which pressed down upon him increased again. 200 times. Yang Yi and Nanjing's expressions changed slightly. Yang Yi raised his head to look over and saw a wide smile on the old man's face. It was like the old man was saying, Go on. Talk more. Talk. Yang Ye's eyes narrowed slightly. He was just about to activate his sword domain when his pupils suddenly constricted, because a black-clothed figure had suddenly appeared behind him. At the same time, a dagger stabbed against the back of his neck. Yang Yi paid no attention to the black-clothed man and that dagger, and he swiftly turned around to look at Nanjing. He saw an enormous palm slap down towards her head. Killing intent surged explosively within Yang Ye's eyes when he witnessed this scene, and then his 9th-level sword intent swept out from within him. The dagger against his neck was instantly blasted away, and the black-clothed figure was forced to take a few steps back as well. 9th-level sword intent? Astonishment filled the eyes of the old man at the top of the stone steps who was just about to act. That kid really concealed his strength well. He was actually able to deceive me? Wait, an expert has helped that kid conceal his aura. How interesting. The old man didn't lend a hand, and a smile covered his face. After he activated his 9th-level sword intent, The force of gravity he experienced was instantly reduced by a huge amount, and then Yang Yi pulled a Nanjing behind him and smashed his fist forward against that enormous hand. Bang! Yang Yi was restrained by 200 times the normal force of gravity, so how could he possibly resist the full-forced attack of a 9th-rank Exalt Realm expert? His fist had just come into contact with that hand when a mouthful of blood sprayed from Yang Ye's mouth, and then his legs bent a little. He'd almost fallen to his knees. "You're courting death," Elder Run roared furiously while he clenched his palm into a fist, and then he smashed a punch towards Yang Ye's head. Elder Yun's fist grew larger and larger, and it was the size of a cauldron when it arrived before Yang Yi. The gale created from the force of the punch caused Yang Ye's hair to flutter. At the same time, a few dozed cold rays of light flashed and appeared before Yang Yi, and then a few dozen blades of light slashed down towards all the weak points on his body. A wisp of a ferocious expression appeared on the corners of Yang Ye's mouth. He was just about to activate his sword domain when an explosion resounded, and it caused the expressions of everyone in the surroundings to change drastically. The gazes of everyone had converged onto a Nanjing. Strands of terrifying intent were surging out explosively from within her. 9th level fist intent. 9th level battle intent. 9th level spear intent. 9th level speed intent. 9th level strength intent. At this moment, everyone in the surroundings was completely dumbstruck, and it included the old man in Taoist robes at the top of the stone steps. For the very first time, fear had appeared in Luo Jun's eyes. Bang! However, this wasn't the end of it because another intent surged out from within her. 9th level slaughter intent. The corners of Yang Ye's mouth twitched at this moment. And Nanjing looked Yang Yi in the eye and said, "Haven't you always been curious about exactly how strong I am? I'll let you see for yourself today." As soon as she finished speaking, Nanjing stretched out her hand and clenched it. Fuse! Yang Yi was able to sense that the 6 types of 9th level intent in the surroundings had instantly fused into a single intent when Nanjing spoke that word. When this completely new intent formed from 6 intents appeared here, Yang Yi felt a slight chill run down his spine. And Nanjing is truly heaven-defying, because he'd sensed a strong feeling of danger from her. "Fuck off!" And Nanjing shouted at Elder Yun, whose eyes were filled with terror. The completely new intent instantly blasted onto Elder Yun's body, and then everyone watched with astonishment as Elder Yun's figure was blasted flying. Moreover, he started rolling down the stone steps after he crashed to the ground. The eyes of everyone opened wide as they gazed at Nanjing with disbelief. This is the martial god. The invincible martial god? I probably wouldn't be a match for her if I hadn't comprehended the sword domain, right? The strength Nanjing revealed shocked Yang Yi. Nanjing was a true monstrous genius, and he was very clearly aware that he, the sword emperor of this era, would definitely be suppressed by Nanjing if it wasn't for the sword domain that he'd comprehended. Shadow's figure flashed and transformed into over 1,000 afterimages as he retreated. A wisp of disdain arose on the corners of Nanjing's mouth as her figure flashed as well, and then a few thousand afterimages appeared in the surroundings. After that, a bang resounded as a figure fell before the mortal emperor Luo Jun. "I warned you not to offend me, but you refused to listen." And Nanjing walked slowly towards Luo Jun and said, "Since you've made such a choice, then I'll kill you." Luo Jun's expression was unsightly to the extreme because he suddenly noticed that he didn't have any confidence in being able to best this martial god. And Nanjing, in battle, right when Nanjing was about to attack, an old man in a linen robe appeared before her, and the old man smiled bitterly as he shook his head. "Little girl, leave it at that. Otherwise, your ancestor, I would have no choice but to take you with me and flee for our lives." A monarch realm expert. Yang Ye's pupils constricted. He was actually able to enter the Saint Ruins? Yang Yi turned around to look at the old man in Taoist robes, and saw that the old man had an indifferent expression, as if he hadn't noticed the old man in a linen robe. And Nanjing stared the old man in the eye and said, "He attacked me first." "I know," the old man said, "but it can't be helped. He has the support of too many people while you only have me." And Nanjing fell silent. The old man sighed and said, "I know it's unfair and I'm aggrieved as well, But these are the facts of the situation. They are stronger than us, so we can only endure it even if we feel aggrieved. I won't make things difficult for you, ancestor. And Nanjing turned around and walked towards the stone steps. The old man shook his head, and then he glanced at Luo Jun and said, "If it wasn't out of consideration for your ancestor, I would really like to smack you to death right now. Even your ancestor doesn't dare act against her, yet you actually dared to arouse killing intent towards her. Do you think that you're the rules of the continent now?" Luo Jun's face turned gloomy. The old man paid no further attention to Luo Jun, and he looked at Yang Yi instead and said, "As for you, stop seeking out that little girl from my clan. Otherwise, I'll kill you even if the demon emperor is protecting you." As soon as he finished speaking, the old man in a linen robe waved his right hand, and then both Elder Yun and Shadow, who were heavily injured and lying on the ground, had instantly exploded into pieces. After that, the old man didn't even spare another glance at Luo Jun before he vanished on the spot. Xianxia's eyes lit up when he saw both Elder Yun and Shadow being killed. Isn't this the best opportunity to kill Luo Jun? Yang Yi was just about to attack when a Nanjing stopped him, and she said, "There's a 9th-rank monarch realm expert from the exalted Han Empire outside. You can't kill him here." Yang Yi shrugged when he heard this, and then he gazed at Luo Jun, who had a gloomy expression on his face. "Luo Jun, do you know that I really look down upon you? I really don't know why the heavens would have chosen someone like you to be the mortal emperor. I'm not bragging, but I feel that I'm much more outstanding than you. Why don't you just give me the mortal emperor sword and let me be the mortal emperor? Because you, Luo Jun, are a true disgrace to that title." Luo Jun chuckled lightly and said, "Such a poor method of provocation. It isn't your place to evaluate whether I've brought disgrace to the title of mortal emperor. I know you want to fight me. Don't worry, I'll make your wish come true." "My wish?" Yang Yi shook his head and said, "Luo Jun, you think too highly of yourself. I only want to kill you and not fight a one-on-one battle with you. Understand?" Luo Jun's face fell while killing intent surged explosively in his eyes. Yang Yi paid no further attention to Luo Jun. He turned around and gazed at a Nanjing as he said, "What did that ancestor of yours mean when he asked me to stay away from you?" "He's worried that you would take me from him," and Nanjing spoke flatly. The corners of Yang Ye's mouth twitched, and then he smiled embarrassedly. "That ancestor of yours is really funny, huh?" He couldn't help but feel embarrassed in his heart. Trick and take a Nanjing away? I wouldn't mind, but is that even possible? Right at this moment, the old man in Taoist robes had appeared before Yang Yi and a Nanjing, and then the old man gazed at her and said, "Little girl, I announce that you're qualified. There's no need for you to pass through the other tests. Come with me to inherit Saint Lu Yun's mantle." The old man's face was very calm, but the excitement in his heart surged like a team of wild horses. 6 types of intent, and all of them are at the 9th level. Not to mention this current age, she's a monstrous genius amongst monstrous geniuses even during the ancient times of over 10,000 years ago when numerous geniuses walked the continent. Even though this fellow with a sword is really good as well, I have no choice but to say that he's really inferior when compared to this little girl. After all, he has only comprehended sword intent. "Senior, this isn't fair." Right at this moment, Luo Jun suddenly said, "On what basis are you choosing her?" He didn't really care about Saint Lu Yun's inheritance, and he was just afraid that this mysterious old man would give all Saint Lu Yun's possessions to a Nanjing. If that happened, then he would have come here for nothing. Because a Nanjing would definitely not give the world portrait to him with the relationship they had right now. "Fair." The old man chuckled lightly and said, "All right, I'll give you a chance. I'll allow you to inherit Saint Lu Yun's mantle if you can defeat this little girl. All right?" As soon as he finished speaking, the old man glanced at the members of the devil race and demon race behind Luo Jun and said, "It's the same for all of you. Defeat this little girl and you'll have a chance." Luo Jun's lips twitched, and his face was so unsightly it was like he'd just swallowed a fly. Mo Xian and the robust man from the Divine Gold Dragon clan revealed very unsightly expressions as well. The old man gazed at a Nanjing with an amiable expression and said, "All right, pay no further attention to them. I've been waiting for many years. Let's go get the inheritance. I'll be free once you've obtained the inheritance. And Nanjing stared the old man in the eye and said, Do you think I need St. Luyun's inheritance? The old man's expression changed slightly. He fell silent for a short while before he said, Little girl, you possess many inheritances, and every single one of them isn't weak. Moreover, it's rare that you've actually been able to transform all of them into your own. Even I admire you for that. If it was over 10,000 years ago, then it would only be a matter of time for you to surpass St. Luyun. Because regardless of whether it's your natural talent or comprehension ability, you're absolutely not inferior to St. Luyun. But little girl, it's over 10,000 years later now. Even though I'm unable to leave this place, I'm able to sense how scarce the energy in the world has become. You won't be able to attain the Saint Realm, even if you cultivate for your entire lifetime. I'm going to challenge the heaven path, said Nanjing. The old man said, You won't succeed. Why? It was Yang Yi who asked this question. Because they will absolutely not allow someone like you to attain the Saint Realm, the old man said in a low voice. You're too monstrous to the point no one is able to avoid fearing you. So you're bound to fail. Yang Ye's expression changed and said, The heaven path is being controlled by someone? And Nanjing's expression became solemn as well. The old man said, You're better off not knowing some things. Both of you just have to realize that you need to become strong, even stronger, and even 10 times or 100 times stronger than anything you've imagined. Otherwise, you'll still transform into a pile of dirt after years of cultivation. Because we're too weak in the eyes of some existences. Senior, are you trying to terrify us? Yang Yi said, Someone in the continent passed through the heaven path 10,000 years ago. Who? The old man's expression changed. The Sword Sect's founding ancestor. Yang Yi said. He was the only person in the last 10,000 years to pass through the heaven path. Not only did he pass through it, he completely crushed it. If it's really as you've said, and those people controlling the heaven path are that extraordinary, then how could the Sword Sect's founding ancestor have possibly passed through it? Besides that, even though he was a monstrous genius, I believe that Nanjing's future accomplishments wouldn't be inferior to him. Where's that person? The Sword Sect's founding ancestor, whom you speak of? The old man's eyes carried a trace of urgency. Yang Yi shook his head and said, I don't know. He left a strand of his soul in the world, and I was lucky enough to encounter it. However, that strand of his soul didn't have any of his memories from that time, and he just warned me to work hard and become strong. The old man nodded and said, So that's how it is, that's how it is. Ha. Do the two of you think that he really passed through it? What do you mean? Asked Yang Yi in a low voice. The heaven path is really getting more and more mysterious. The old man shook his head and gazed at Nanjing before he said, Little girl, I know that you're very confident, but don't underestimate St. Luyun. He was able to become a saint, so there's naturally something unique about him. It would be enormously beneficial for you to obtain his inheritance. How about you let him inherit it? And Nanjing pointed at Yang Yi as she spoke these words. Yang Yi was stunned. The old man glanced at Yang Yi, shook his head and said, Even though he's not bad, he's too inferior when compared to you. St. Luyun would probably not take a liking to his natural talent, but there'll definitely be no problem if it's you. Because if he isn't even satisfied with you, then there's probably no one in this world that can satisfy him. He's looking down on me. Yang Yi shrugged and didn't refute it. In any case, he wasn't interested in the inheritance. He would definitely be interested if it was a saint in the Sword Dao. Sadly, St. Luyun wasn't such an expert. He's very strong. And Nanjing spoke in a serious tone. Not at all. He's too weak when compared to you. The old man completely disregarded Yang Ye's feelings and continued to look down upon him while praising Nanjing. And Nanjing intended to say something when Yang Yi said, Stop recommending me. Otherwise, I really don't know how much more contempt he'll express towards me. This old man is right. St. Luyun's inheritance will definitely be helpful to you. Since it's helpful, then why refuse it? As for me, don't you know that I'm on a pure path of the Sword Dao, so other inheritances aren't really helpful to me? The old man glanced at Yang Yi with praise. This kid is quite sensible. And Nanjing fell silent for a moment and asked, "Where's the world portrait?" "The world portrait?" The old man revealed a slightly strange expression as he glanced at her. "Why are you looking for the world portrait?" "Because I need it," Yang Yi said. "Senior, I'm quite in need of the world portrait. May I know if—" The old man waved his hand and spoke in a slightly cold tone. "Kid, since you were sensible earlier, allow me to provide you with a piece of advice. Don't try to obtain the world portrait. There are quite a few treasures in Luyun Palace, so just go take a few and leave." "Why?" Yang Yi was puzzled. "Because you'll die," the old man said furiously. "Do you know what the world portrait is? It's a natural Dao artifact. A natural Dao artifact that has a natural equipment spirit. Do you know how terrifying the equipment spirit of a natural Dao artifact is? It's comparable to a monarch realm expert. So are you trying to die by seeking to obtain it? Comparable to a monarch realm expert?" Yang Yi spoke with astonishment. "Don't deceive me, geezer. Are natural Dao artifacts that extraordinary?" As he spoke, Yang Yi pointed at Luo Jun and said, "The Mortal Emperor Sword, which is ranked at the first position on the natural Dao artifact rankings. But it doesn't seem to be extraordinary at all." "How ignorant!" The old man laughed coldly and said, "Its equipment spirit is merely in deep slumber. Why don't you see how extraordinary it is once it has awakened? The equipment spirit in her spear is in deep slumber as well. Once it awakens and merges flawlessly with her spear, then you'll realize how terrifying a natural Dao artifact really is." Yang Yi flipped his palm, and then the ancient sheath appeared in his hand as he said, "This ancient sheath of mine has a sword spirit as well, but why isn't she as strong as that?" The corners of the old man's mouth twitched, and then he said, "How would I know? Do you think I'm a god? Moreover, this ancient sheath of yours isn't a natural Dao artifact. How unfair. The martial god's weapon is a natural Dao artifact. The mortal emperor's weapon is a natural Dao artifact as well, yet only mine isn't." Yang Yi pursed his lips as he glanced at the ancient sheath with slight displeasure because it was really much weaker in comparison. The corners of the old man's mouth twitched, and he was slightly furious. "You idiot that can't discern anything. Even though it isn't a natural Dao artifact, it isn't weaker than one at all." Yang Yi hurriedly asked, "Why? Senior, do you know something about it?" "Because—" The old man was just about to speak when a sword howl resounded from the ancient sheath in Yang Ye's grasp, and then the old man glanced at it before he shut his mouth. Yang Yi was furious. He'd finally been able to find someone who knew something about the ancient sheath, but the ancient sheath had caused trouble right when that person was about to tell him about the ancient sheath's origins. What a bastard. "All right, let's get to the point. Both of you come with me to that fellow St. Luyun's palace. Kid, I'm only bringing you along out of consideration for her. So behave yourself when we get there." The old man waved his right hand, and then all three of them immediately vanished on the spot. When the three of them vanished from the stone steps, the force of gravity on the stone steps instantly vanished, and then all of them heaved sighs of relief before running madly up the stone steps. Even though they weren't able to obtain St. Luyun's inheritance, there was definitely a huge amount of treasures in such a large palace. Since they'd come here, how could they possibly just leave empty-handed? The members of the demon race and devil race charged over as well. After all, they hadn't come here for St. Luyun's inheritance because St. Luyun was a human profounder. How could a human profounder possibly give his inheritance the devil or demon race? The reason they'd come here was mainly for St. Luyun's treasures. How could anyone not be tempted by the treasures which were left behind by a Saint Realm expert? The only people who didn't move were those in Luo Jun's group. "Mortal Emperor, what should we do now?" Granny Rong spoke in a low voice. She hadn't gone with Luo Jun's group because her strength was comparatively lacking. So, she hadn't had the opportunity to participate in the surprise assault against Yang Yi and in Nanjing. That was exactly why she'd escaped death. Luo Jun took a deep breath and said, "The world portrait might fall into the hands of a Nanjing or Yang Yi. It's meaningless for us to continue staying here. Send for the leaders of the 10 regiments. When he spoke up to this point, Luo Jun pondered deeply for a moment before he continued. Order the 4 Grand Commanders of the Soul Eater Corps, and the 2 Pavilion Masters and 4 Vice Pavilion Masters of the Shadow Pavilion and the Dark Pavilion to get here quickly. Granny Rong's heart shook. She knew that the mortal emperor was determined to kill Yang Yi this time. Luo Jun took a long glance at the end of the stone steps, and then he said, "Fine. I'll let you bring the world portrait out for me." Luo Jun turned around and left as soon as he finished speaking. Xianxia watched Luo Jun leave from the stone steps, and her brows knit together slightly. "Why didn't you allow me to go join Yang Yi just now?" Lu Jianyao spoke with slight displeasure from Xianxia's side. Actually, they'd arrived at the wilds a long time ago, but Xianxia didn't allow her to go see Yang Yi, and it made Lu Jianyao feel very displeased. Xianxia glanced at Lu Jianyao and said, "Listen carefully. Perhaps Luo Jun is helpless against Yang Yi and in Nanjing, but killing us is as easy as crushing a few ants to him. If you were to go to Yang Ye's side, then Luo Jun would definitely target you. How would you resist Luo Jun if he were to try to kill or capture you? Wouldn't I still have Yang Yi and a Nanjing to protect me?" Lu Jianyao spoke softly and seemed to be slightly lacking confidence. Xianxia shook her head and said, "Do you know why Yang Yi still allowed you to come here when you're so stupid and like to push your friends into difficult positions? Even though Yang Yi is a ruthless person that doesn't show any mercy when he does things, he's a very loyal person. You were willing to die in order to protect him while he was breaking through that day. So, he really took you to be a friend from that moment onward. That's the only reason why he's able to tolerate all the things you do. But you have to have some awareness. Besides being a burden to him, what else can you do while staying by his side? Since you can't help him and will only be a burden to him, then why follow him? Think about it yourself." Lu Jianyao fell silent while her face became slightly pale. "Let's go. If I'm not wrong, then there are definitely a huge amount of techniques and treasures within that palace. We won't get anything if we're late." Xianxia led Jinsha and the others up the stone steps. Lu Jianyao remained silent on the spot for quite some time before she followed them as well. "He's Saint Lu Yun?" In a hall, Yang Yi gazed with astonishment at a middle-aged man who sat cross-legged on a meditation cushion not too far away from him. There was nothing unusual about the middle-aged man's appearance, or it should be said to be extremely ordinary like a commoner who hadn't cultivated at all. There was a trace of surprise in Nanjing's eyes as well. Obviously, she hadn't imagined that a Saint Realm expert like Saint Lu Yun would actually seem so ordinary. "Surprising, right?" the old man in Taoist robes said. "He really is Saint Lu Yun. He was extraordinary all those years ago." Yang Yi gazed at Saint Lu Yun, whose face was rosy, as if he wasn't dead at all. And then Yang Yi said, "Did Saint Lu Yun vanish along with those other Saint Realm experts from the ancient times? Or is he dead?" The old man shook his head and said, "I don't know. Don't ask me about anything else as well, because I wouldn't tell you even if you did ask about it." When he spoke up to this point, the old man walked over to Saint Lu Yun and said, "The person you've been waiting for is here." Yang Yi and Nanjing watched with solemn expressions in their eyes as a slightly ethereal and translucent figure appeared above Saint Lu Yun. A soul. The translucent figure was clearly a part of Saint Lu Yun's soul. Saint Lu Yun opened his eyes, and then his gaze descended onto both Nanjing and Yang Yi. He frowned a little when he saw Nanjing. "A woman." Yang Ye's eyes narrowed when he heard this, and then a trace of confusion and uneasiness arose in the depths of his eyes. The old man in Taoist robes said, "She isn't an ordinary person. She possesses 6 types of intents and has attained the 9th level in every single one. Such natural talent is probably outstanding even during your era, right?" A trace of surprise flashed through Saint Lu Yun's eyes, and then he carefully sized up Nanjing before he said, "Sure enough, she really is an outstanding genius. What monstrous natural talent. I never expected that such a genius would have appeared after 15,000 years. Not bad indeed." A smile appeared on his face. After that, Saint Lu Yun glanced at Yang Yi. "This kid isn't bad as well. He has attained the 9th level of sword intent at such a young age, so he's quite a genius as well. However, he's quite inferior when compared to this little girl," said the old man. "9th level sword intent?" St. Lu Yun nodded slightly and said, "He is a genius for being able to attain 9th level sword intent at such an age. Unfortunately, he can only be considered to be a genius but not a peerless genius." When he spoke up to this point, St. Lu Yun's gaze descended onto a Nanjing. There was a trace of hesitation in his eyes, but it wasn't long before that hesitation transformed into a firm gaze. And Nanjing frowned a little from being stared at like that. She didn't really like St. Lu Yun for some reason. "Are you still not satisfied?" The old man said, "If you're not satisfied with this little girl, then I guarantee that you'll be unable to find another candidate who satisfies you, because her natural talent is definitely the best in the world right now." St. Lu Yun nodded slightly, and then he gazed at a Nanjing and said, "Little girl, are you willing to receive my inheritance? Right, you might not know me, so allow me to introduce myself. My name is Yi Lu Yun. I started cultivating at the age of 5, attained the Exalt realm at the age of 19, the Monarch realm at the age of 50, and the Saint realm at the age of 390. During the ancient times, those who were capable of attaining the Saint realm at the age of 390 or younger could be counted with the figures on just one hand." Yang Yi suddenly said, "May I ask if Senior is dead, or are you alive?" St. Lu Yun frowned a little and seemed to be quite displeased, but he still explained, "Unless they take their own lives or are killed, otherwise, it's impossible for Saint Realm experts to die, because Saint Realm experts have broken through the shackles of lifespan and attained a true state of being eternal with the world. So, this question of yours is very ignorant." Yang Yi lowered his head a little when he heard this, and then a cold glow flashed through his eyes. "I don't want to inherit your mantle." Meanwhile, a Nanjing spoke abruptly. St. Lu Yun's gaze descended onto a Nanjing, and then he frowned and asked, "Why?" A Nanjing said, "I only came here to look for the world portrait." The corners of the old man's mouth twitched while Yang Yi gazed at a Nanjing with astonishment. The world portrait? She came here for the world portrait? Yang Yi didn't have to think to know that she definitely wasn't doing it for Luo Jun. Since it wasn't for Luo Jun, then there was only one other possibility. She was doing it for him, Yang Yi. Yang Yi felt he was being quite narcissistic, but that was how he thought about the matter. The world portrait? St. Lu Yun glanced at the old man in Taoist robes and said, "I have the world portrait, but it's a natural Tao artifact, so why should I give it to you? You wouldn't be thinking of taking it by force, right? Haha, even though I'm just a strand of soul, I can still kill ordinary Monarch realm experts with ease. However, I can give you an opportunity." And Nanjing said, "What are your conditions?" St. Lu Yun said, "Receive my inheritance. After you inherit my mantle, the world portrait and all the treasures within the palace will be yours. That's a really good thing to you, isn't it? Because you wouldn't lose anything and would just have to receive my inheritance. Not only would it improve your strength, it would even allow you to obtain a natural Tao artifact and other treasures." And Nanjing glanced at Yang Yi, and then she gazed at St. Lu Yun and said, "I agree." Just as St. Lu Yun had said, there was no harm in doing this. A smile appeared on St. Lu Yun's face, and then he said, "All right, then fully open up your heart and mind. I'll enter your sea of consciousness in a moment. Don't resist me and just stay calm as you receive my inheritance. Understand?" And Nanjing frowned and said, "I've received the inheritance of the martial god," and it wasn't like that. When she received the inheritance of the martial god had merely transmitted his inheritance into her mind, and she hadn't been asked to fully open up her heart, mind, and sea of consciousness. After all, if she was to do that and fully give up on resistance, then it would be extremely dangerous if St. Lu Yun had ill intent. The inheritance of the martial god, it was probably only a portion of it, right? "I'm giving you my full inheritance, so it's naturally not the same." St. Lu Yun smiled. "I'm just a strand of soul, so is there any need to fear that I would have ill intent towards you? Moreover, both of you are here right now, so you don't seem to have any ability to resist even if I did have ill intent towards you. right? Yang Ye's brows knit together even more tightly when he heard this. And Nanjing didn't hesitate anymore and nodded. All right. A wisp of excitement flashed through St. Luyun's eyes, and he was just about to enter a Nanjing sea of consciousness when Yang Yi suddenly stood before a Nanjing and said, "Wait!" A wisp of ghastly killing intent flashed in St. Luyun's eyes. Yang Ye's heart shook when he noticed St. Luyun's killing intent, and he hurriedly said, "Senior, I'd like to inherit Senior's mantle. I hope Senior will fulfill my wish." And Nanjing intended to say something, but Yang Yi grabbed her hand, and then he smiled and said, "And Nanjing, you've inherited the inheritances of so many martial gods. So allow me to have the Senior's inheritance, all right?" And Nanjing gazed at him for a short while before she nodded, but there was a trace of bewilderment in her eyes. The killing intent in St. Luyun's eyes dispersed when he heard Yang Yi, and then he put on a smile again and said, "Kid, even though your strength isn't bad, and even your potential is good, but you're much more inferior to this little girl. To be honest, I don't want my mantle to be passed down to a mediocre person. Even though you aren't mediocre, someone else is more outstanding that you understand." Yang Yi nodded and said, "What if I possess the enlightened sword heart?" The enlightened sword heart? The expressions of the old man in Taoist robes and St. Luyun changed slightly. St. Luyun floated over to Yang Yi and stared at him for a short while before he exclaimed with admiration, "It really is the enlightened sword heart. I never expected that you were actually able to attain the enlightened sword heart at such a young age. Kid, if it's in terms of natural talent, then you can be ranked in the top 10 of all the sword cultivators I've known. Kid, why didn't you tell me that you possessed the enlightened sword heart?" The old man spoke with slight anger. This fellow was actually still concealing his ability. "You didn't ask." Yang Yi shrugged innocently. The old man was exasperated. St. Luyun glanced at Yang Yi, and then he glanced at a Nanjing while a trace of hesitation appeared in his eyes. A short while passed before he shook his head in the end. "Kid, even though you possess the enlightened sword heart, you're still slightly inferior to this little girl. So, I still intend to give my inheritance to this little girl." Right at this moment, Yang Yi took a step forward, and then a mysterious energy appeared around all of them. The expressions on the faces of St. Luyun and the old man changed drastically upon sensing this mysterious energy. "Sword domain. This is the sword domain. You've actually comprehended the sword domain." The old man pointed a finger at Yang Yi while he spoke in a slightly trembling voice. Besides surprise, there was also excitement and happiness in St. Luyun's eyes. Yang Yi glanced at the two of them while a wisp of killing intent flashed through the depths of his eyes. These two fellows are definitely not good people. Even though he didn't have any proof, his intuition told him that there was definitely something off about them. Moreover, the sword spirit had given him a warning that the two of them were absolutely not kind people. All of these were the reasons why he'd stopped in Nanjing from receiving the inheritance. He wanted to attack now, but the facts of the situation told him that while they were both affected by his sword domain, it wasn't very strong. He knew that he wouldn't be able to pose much of a threat to them even if he utilized his sword domain at its full strength. Monarch Realm experts were really not existences which Monarch Realm experts could resist. Yang Yi withdrew the killing intent in his heart and said sincerely, "Senior, I sincerely desire to inherit your mantle, so please fulfill my wish. Even though I don't dare to speak about surpassing Senior's accomplishments from all those years ago, I guarantee that I will absolutely not bring shame to Senior's name." "All right." St. Luyun didn't hesitate at all this time. Even though a Nanjing had comprehended 6 intents, they were only intents in the end. Yang Yi, on the other hand, had comprehended a domain which reigned supreme over intents, and Yang Yi was even a man, so he naturally intended to choose Yang Yi. And Nanjing glanced at St. Luyun, glanced at Yang Yi, and intended to say something. However, Yang Yi tightened his grip on her hand, and then glanced at her while smiling. "You wouldn't fight me for it, right?" And Nanjing gazed at Yang Yi and didn't say anything. Yang Yi said, "Don't worry, you know me. I never do anything I'm not confident at. I'm confident in my ability to receive the senior's inheritance." Meanwhile, St. Luyun said, "Don't worry, little girl. Even though you can't obtain my inheritance, I still won't treat you unfairly. Head over to the treasury and take a few treasures later. There are even some Tao artifacts there. As he spoke, he glanced at the old man and said, Little two, take her to the treasure to choose a few things. The old man nodded, and then he gazed at a Nanjing and said, Let's leave and not disturb them. And Nanjing took a deep and long glance at Yang Yi before she left with the old man. I never expected that you would actually be so loyal to your love, and are actually willing to sacrifice yourself to save that little girl. Saint Lu Yun smiled as he spoke to Yang Yi. You're finally showing your true self? Yang Yi stared Saint Lu Yun in the eye. So he saw through my intentions since the beginning. As expected of a Saint Realm expert. Yang Ye's heart felt even heavier. I'm very curious. How did you know that I had ill intent towards the two of you? Saint Lu Yun said, Truthfully speaking, I feel that I didn't give myself away in the slightest. So why were both you and that little girl so vigilant against me? Especially you. You even revealed killing intent towards me when you executed your sword domain just now. I'm really curious. Yang Yi said, Actually, I'm very curious as well. You're just a strand of soul now, so why act against us? Even if you intended to take control of our bodies, a strand of soul is probably insufficient to accomplish that, right? Since you can't, then what's your true objective? You'll satisfy my curiosity since I'm about to die, right? What an interesting kid. Saint Lu Yun smiled and said, You actually guessed that I'm going to take control of your body. Why? Asked Yang Yi. Saint Lu Yun took a deep breath, and then his translucent and ethereal body grew denser and denser before Yang Yi. It wasn't long before Saint Lu Yun's figure had gradually materialized to a seemingly completely material state. You're not dead. Yang Yi suppressed the shock in his heart and spoke in a low voice. A Saint Realm expert. A living Saint Realm expert. Not to mention Yang Yi, even any other person in the world would probably be shocked by this. You're wrong. Saint Lu Yun waved his right hand, and then the body beneath him instantly transformed into dust. I suffered a surprise attack from two Saint Realm experts over 10,000 years ago. My physical body was completely destroyed while my soul was almost obliterated as well. Fortunately, I was saved by my benefactor, and my damaged soul was preserved. After that, I hid here and recuperated for over 10,000 years before my soul was finally repaired. Now all I lack is a physical body that can endure the strength of my soul. You're very suitable for that role. So that's why. Yang Yi said, So you're just in soul form right now? Saint Lu Yun smiled and said, I understand your intentions, but I might as well tell you that while I am in soul form and without a physical body to reside in, and even though my strength isn't at the Saint Realm and not even at the Half-Saint Realm, but I wasn't lying just now. It's still extremely easy for me to kill a Monarch Realm expert. Even though you're a true monstrous genius right now, you have no chance of winning. Saint Lu Yun paused for a moment and continued. Actually, you really pleasantly surprised me. If it wasn't for you, then I would probably have a huge amount of trouble to deal with. Even though that little girl isn't a match for me, she has an ancestor at the 9th rank of the Monarch Realm. If it was in the past, then dealing with such a profounder would only take a wave of my hand. But now, profounders at such a realm of cultivation are still quite a threat to me. Fortunately, you were here, so I don't have to take the risk and seize that little girl's body. One last question. Yang Yi said, You might be the only Saint Realm expert in this world now. Even though you aren't really one now, you were in the past. I want to know why new Saint Realm experts haven't been born in the world. Moreover, why do we need to overcome the heaven path in order to become Saint Realm experts? Attaining the Saint Realm requires a huge amount of spirit energy. Besides the spirit energy of the heavens and the earth, a form of energy called primordial violet energy is needed as well. The continent used to have that energy, but there's probably none now. The reason one can become a Saint Realm expert after overcoming the heaven path is because primordial violet energy exists in the world outside. So, overcoming the heaven path would allow one to obtain primordial violet energy and attain the Saint Realm, said Saint Lu Yun. Who's controlling the heaven path? asked Yang Yi. This was one of the questions he cared about the most, because it was related to his future, and he had to find out about the enemies he would face in the future. St. Lu Yun said, "Would you resist if someone came over to steal from your home? There is no right and wrong in this world, and there's only strong and weak. The spirit energy in the continent has become scarce to its lowest point in history. Do you know why the martial god, sword emperor, and mortal emperor have all appeared now? If I'm not wrong, then this world is making its last stand." "What do you mean?" asked Yang Yi. St. Lu Yun said, "The strength of the profounders in profounder continent is weakening. Since there are no Saint Realm experts here, the arrival of a single Saint Realm expert from the outside world would be able to destroy our entire continent. Under such circumstances, the world would naturally feel threatened. So, it's making its last stand by sacrificing most to help a few, so that those few would be able to open up the heaven path or even destroy it. In that way, this world would be linked to the outside world, and it would obtain new life. Unfortunately, it might not be able to obtain its wish. The world is controlling our lives?" Yang Yi frowned and said, "The world is a person as well? Everything has a spirit." St. Lu Yun said, "All right, we've spoken enough. I presume you can die in peace now. I advise you not to resist, because it would only be in vain and increase your suffering. Just cooperate well with me and I'll let you vanish swiftly." Yang Yi nodded and said, "Bring it." St. Lu Yun grinned and said, "What a sensible little fellow. Don't worry, I won't make your death too painful." As soon as he finished speaking, St. Lu Yun transformed into a wisp of light that directly entered Yang Ye's body.